Welcome to Writing Blog Posts Quickly and Easily. My name is Dante St. James. I'll be taking you through this particular webinar where we'll be learning more about the techniques and the ways to make your blogs work better, but more importantly, help you to write them more easily and more frequently, because that's what it's all about, making sure you have some kind of consistency with your blog posting, but also something where you're not going to hate it after doing it just for a short time. We want to be able to make this nice and sustainable for you so you can do it on a regular basis. Let's get started. First of all, this is brought to you by Business Station and the Digital Solutions Program, which is an initiative of the Australian Government. You can watch this later on YouTube as well through the Business Station channel and my own Dante St. James channel as well. We're putting those up there within probably the next hour or two after this goes. If you are, though, watching this on YouTube, please do pop a comment down below if you've got any questions. But if you're live on there, like quite a lot of people seem to be this morning, post your questions along the way. We'll hopefully make that an easier thing for you to do. Bit about me, I have my own business, Clickstar, which is a digital agency based in the Northern Territory. I have my own training business, DanteStJames.com, which will be releasing its first online courses in January of 2022, and Cellular One, which is a mobile phone plan and NBN reseller company as well. I've studied at University of New South Wales, the Chartered Institute of Marketing, done several TAFE courses and probably about 100 different micro-credentials at the moment with lots of different places. I'm very closely related to the Facebook Blueprint program, as well as being a Facebook community trainer and Blueprint global trainer with Meta. So it's what it's called now, or Facebook, around the world. And I've done tons and tons of writing writing courses to make sure that what I'm doing isn't just rubbish, but it's actually going to help you out in some way, shape, or form. A quote from Sylvia Plath: everything in life is writable about if you have the outgoing guts to do it and the imagination to improvise. The worst enemy to creativity is self-doubt. Not lack of talent, not lack of resources, but your own self-doubt. That's all creativity is overcoming that self-doubt and being able to then write something. Who this is for today is for people who are really busy when it comes to blog writing. They just don't have the time. The overthinker, the person who's just like desperately just stretching their mind to go, what will I write about? Oh, I shouldn't write about this, or I need to get more information about it. And for the absolute beginner who has no idea what they're doing when it comes to blogging, this one's for you as well. The kind of people who'll be offended by this particular webinar are the copywriters, the journalists, and the classical writers, because this breaks all their rules and goes into a whole new sort of way and format of writing that is so simple, you'll just go, wait, why don't I do lots of other writing like this? And this is basically writing for the internet, writing for electronic screens, rather than writing for paper and pages being turned. It's a very different format. And so we want to operate in a very different way to take advantage of that. What we'll cover is what blogging is and why you should bother with it. We'll look at the myths of SEO and the great lie of the tortured writer. And we'll also look at syndicating your blog once you've written it to other places. But the highlight of this particular webinar is I'm going to write a blog here with you. I'm going to actually do it on a topic I'm just going to pick out of thin air and hopefully be able to, well, it's actually something I know a little bit about, but it won't be completely something that it's nothing to do with my business, for example. It's just about a place that we're going to write about. So why should we even bother with blogging? Why is it even a thing we should do? Well, first of all, there's a myth that hangs around that's saying that blogging is dead, and it's simply not true. The focus now is on social media platforms. Yeah, I don't know about that, because the fact is that text content is still the primary way that search engines rank the results and the search engine results for you. You're not going to get there by your Facebook posts or your Instagram photos or your selfies. You're going to get there in those search results simply from the amount of written material you provide that answers questions people are asking, is in the context of where they're searching for, and is basically doing something of some kind of service to people where they're actually looking for your answer. So that's number one myth dispelled. Number two myth: with 30 billion blogs out there and 300 million posts a day, no one's ever going to notice you. Again, this is not true, because you've always got a niche or a context that you write in. And the numbers are right. I don't argue with those. And the chances are that no one is writing in the particular context you're writing in, whether that's your own particular regional town, your city, your suburb, the kind of customers you serve, the particular niche that you're going to fulfill in your market. That's when you get a differentiation from the 100,000 other people who are writing about the same topic that you're writing about. You can get real specific and write about your topic within the context of your town, the next town, a town down the road, a town in another state. As long as you're writing it for that context, it becomes a lot more valid as a search result to people from those areas. Another myth is the blog is just one piece of content. What about social media and video? How are we going to use those? Where are they going to come from? Well, a blog can be used as a starting point. If you write it in the right format, like we're going to show you today, it becomes content for your social media. It becomes content for your video channels, even for YouTube or TikTok even, and podcasts. You can make a podcast out of a blog. In fact, that's what I do each week. I write a blog. That blog is then gets read out as a podcast, and then I turn it into a video as well. And a lot of other things, about 30 different pieces of content come from that one podcast post, the one blog post every week. So what are the advantages of blogging? Why will we even do it? Because, there's myths and there's facts and there's reasons why we might choose to blog ahead of not blogging. But the advantages, what are the true advantages of actually blogging? Well, first of all, it shows your expertise. It gives you a chance to show that you know what you're doing, you know what you're talking about, and you're the expert in the room or in your town or in the particular area that you're wanting to concentrate on in your zone. So when you show your expertise, you show that you can be trusted. And that's part of that whole sales process of somebody first needing to know who you are, followed by liking who you are, and then finally trusting who you are. And that's the 3 stages that people will go through before they'll feel comfortable with buying from you. Showing your expertise really helps that along. A second point would be that you get more search results. That's obvious. The more material you provide to Google, or the more meat you put in the Google grinder, the more sausage you're going to pump out the other end. So the idea being that you produce more content and making sure it's of a decent quality, then it helps you to rank better in the Google algorithm and for it to deliver more search results to people searching for what you are, what you do, and who it's for. And then also, writing a blog helps you repurpose and syndicate your material to other areas, to other websites, to other social media platforms, to other formats altogether. You can take pieces of what you're writing and turn it into many, many more other things. For every sentence or every paragraph that you're writing, for every paragraph that you write, you may have a really good point. That point becomes a social media post or a video or a piece of audio or another smaller piece that you can write about and explain later on. One of the pieces of feedback I had from my own podcast is that my episodes, when they ran at about 10 minutes long, were too long. And I could break that down to 3-minute episodes, which are nice, small, easy to read, easy to consume, and easy to listen to daily bits. And I can get 30 days of stuff out of, basically out of 2 days worth of posts or 2 days worth of podcasts, rather than having to concentrate on writing 30 different pieces. I could break up if I write say 4 or 5 blogs a month, which have 3 main points, well, that's 15 points straight away, which become extra podcasts. So all I have to do is really just write maybe 6 different pieces, and I've got 3 different points a week that can go in there, or 3 different points each one. So I'm writing 6 in a month. 6 3 is 18. That's 18 different things I can do. That's over half a month already. So you start to see how it then expands. You can then repurpose into many, many other things and produce more blogs and more podcasts and more videos and more social media posts all at the same time. So how do we blog? What's the real formula for how to blog? How do you write one? How do you begin to write one? Let's start out first with, you need to know what you want to achieve. Are you wanting to achieve search results? Are you wanting to achieve education of your customers or about your product? Do you want to achieve sales? Blogs are great for all of these things. They're allowing you to write to attract those search queries that people are looking for, but they're also great for taking time to explain concepts about your products and services to people who don't know the answers to them. And then as a sales tool, it allows you to go through that process of introducing your product, explaining what's in it for people, allowing them to know what the product is, and having some really great features in there helping to like the product. And finally, they'll have enough information with which to trust you to buy the product. So a sales format is also there. This format we're looking at today takes care of all three of those. Now you've got to choose your topic. This isn't as easy as it may seem. You might go, out of all the things I could write, out of all the topics that I have some sort of expertise in, what do I write? Where do I find the answer to that? So one of the places that's really good for that is Google's Keyword Planner. The Keyword Planner is, it's like a list of the best things that are possible for you to write about based upon your industry or the things that people find out you from on the internet. So for instance, if you are a carpenter and you make cabinets and you're a cabinet maker, that sort of thing, then people will look for you and find you in certain ways. So those certain ways could be, they find you as a cabinet maker in your suburb, and they're looking at your particular suburb. Let's just say it's in the Logan area of Brisbane. So they're looking for a cabinet maker in Logan. So you could write things that actually attract search results for that. Everything to do with cabinet making, cabinetry, carpenter, chippy, all that sort of stuff, making kitchen cabinets, bathroom cabinets, built-in wardrobes, all that sort of thing can be brought in to be something that you talk about as someone in the Logan area. It gives you some context. But then the Keyword Planner in Google, which is part of the Google Ads platform, by the way. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, just search for Keyword Planner on Google and it'll direct you through to the Google Ads platform. You don't have to advertise to use it. It's just a really good tool for working out what it is that people are searching for. Adding keywords like your local area and what you do will give you a plethora of different topics and words you can add in as part of the things that you write about. You write about current trends too. For instance, if you are let's just say a jewelry maker, and the current jewelry maker thing is wire writing. It's about turning wire into people's names and words that then become part of a necklace or a pendant on a necklace. So that kind of thing might be really hot right now, and you can write about that. As a jeweler, you can write about wire writing and why it's so hot right now, or why it's a really good thing to have as jewelry, and it's really good for handing down to future generations. Whatever you want to write about that's to do with that particular topic, if that's a current trend. It could be colors trends, it could be style trends, it could be holiday trends, fashion trends, any sort of trends when it comes to what it is that you do helps you to explain to other people in a blog why that trend is important and how you tie to it. And then, of course, there's always the competition aspect. If you choose a topic based on this, you might just go, well, my competitor is now offering this particular product. And I offer it as well, but they're writing about it a lot and they're getting seem to be getting a lot of attention for that particular topic. I want to get that attention. So you can then write material in a blog about that same thing. We call it inspiration. So you go to be inspired by something that someone else has written, then you write something about that same thing, but better. And you could do a cat and mouse game where they write a bit better, you write a bit better, they write a bit better, you write a bit better. But ultimately what happens is, it doesn't matter who of you is winning at the end, you're both going to be up there higher because you are taking time and attention to that search term, especially if it's a search term that people are looking for quite a lot. Now we write the post. Now to write the post, we're going to choose a format. So I'm going to show you the format very shortly about what we're going to choose as far as how we write that particular one. And I will write a blog here with you. Then we're going to look at using structure. Now, when using structure, we're talking about the idea of adding in things like paragraphs, adding in things like images that may go between stuff, or it might be making sure that we are able to somehow add dot points just to make it easier for everything to be read. We don't need everything to be so darn difficult to read. In fact, we want things to be really simple to read because that makes it more readable and makes it more shareable. When things are more shareable, then they've got the opportunity to go to many, many far-flung places other than just the one place where we happen to have it. And when things are shareable, they become a bit more famous. They become a bit more attractive. People tend to want to work more with things that are, that are popular. They want to work more with things that are able to be used, by themselves and by other people, and things that will make them feel good about doing them. So, for instance, you may want to use a particular piece of software to share your photos. And for a long, long time, you've been using Instagram, but now you find that everyone's doing it in video on this thing called TikTok. So if you're doing the TikTok thing, then you go, okay, well, if I'm going to go TikTok, I need to be able to do this because it's popular and other people are doing it. So then we work with that. We go with the idea that we're moving with more popular things. And that's an important thing. So using that structure will help you to better explain what your points are and better communicate what you want to communicate. And then, of course, when you're writing the post, a clear call to action at the end is going to be helpful too, because it allows you to go, okay, here's the next step. I've told you all this stuff and I've explained all this information. Now here is the next step. And that can be in the form of a button. It could be in the form of go here to find out more, or it could be something like watch this video or fill in this newsletter subscription form to be able to get more information about what we're doing. So including that call to action is important at the end of every blog. Then there's the repurposing and syndication. This is where you spread your blog out to lots of different things. So you can break up your blog into many, as we've said before, many different topics and different blog posts going into different blog platforms, or even then into your social media. Yep, and sharing it on your socials, sharing pieces of it. You can share your blog on social media. You can share a link to it. You can share different points in graphics that you create on things like Canva and Trello and all those different graphics, Adobe Spark, all that sort of stuff. And then there's the posting on other sites as well. So you can take it to Blogger, to Tumblr. I've got a list of these different sites to look at very shortly, which will make it a lot easier for you to choose. So what is the simple formula to blogging? How does it work and where does it go? The simple formula to the blogging is ask, answer, and explain. Three very small words, but what do they actually mean? When we're talking about asking, we're talking about asking a question. That's in the title. When we're talking about answering, we're talking about answering that question in the first available instance we can, the first sentence or at least first paragraph. And then the explain is further explaining or discussing or backing up what we've said about the answer. It's kind of like writing an old school assignment at school when you're writing an essay, is the word I was looking for. You start off with a position, then you state the position, then you back up the position, then you conclude. We're doing a very similar thing here. So this is not an unfamiliar or weird format that I've just made up. This is just the way that people can very easily read things. So first off, we're going to ask a question. This is the title of the post, and the title of the post is a common question that is asked about things you do, or it could be a question that you wish people would ask about the things you do. This is just asked in a format such as, how do I fix a broken watch? How do I, is it best to drink water warm or cold? In that format, in a question, with a question mark at the end of it. Why do we do a question? Simply because this is by far and away the way that people search in Google these days, whether they're asking their phone via their voice a question to be answered, such as, what time does Coles close tonight? Or is there a Chinese restaurant nearby? They're all in the format of questions, but we're starting now to type questions into Google itself or into the address bar of Chrome or whatever browser we're using, starting to type those questions in the format of a question. So it makes sense, and we want to be found for the answers for that. We would write those questions, right, as our title. The most powerful thing that draws Google's search engine into index our site. If we write like that, we are writing quite literally to answer the question that people have without making it hard for them to find it or to identify it in there. And then we back up that with a very quick, clear answer that is totally, you could never misunderstand it. It just makes sense. So when we're looking at that, we're looking at the answer part. What you do is answer that question you've asked in the title directly in the first paragraph, or even the first sentence, if you possibly could do it. That way, you'll be in a position to not only have the search engine results show your question, but show your answer in the results, meaning that someone doesn't necessarily need to click away to your site. They'll get the answer they want within Google itself. And that's by using Google's snippets, and snippets will take pieces of information, usually in dot points, which is coming up next, which shows here's the question, here's the answer, and here's the explanation for all the options for it in a really clear to use format. And if someone gets the answer from that directly in Google, that helps your SEO. That actually helps you to be found more often because you become the default answer for that. And if someone wants to know more, they can click on that snippet and then go forward to something else and to read more of your site if they wish so. Doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get the traffic, but it doesn't matter because you've still got the snippet that's come out of it. You are the default answer on Google, which gives you a hell of a lot of authority and credibility. And finally, we look at the explanation. By explaining, we are using examples or expanded points, so dot points that we then expand on to show that we know what we're talking about and we can be trusted. Remember that know, like, trust. They're going to know who we are because they've found us. They're going to like who we are because we're answering the question for them. And they're going to trust us because we're speaking with credibility and authority on that particular topic. But I'd say in the case of a really efficient blog, keep it to 3 points. Keep it as something that's going to be really, really simple to be able to answer and really simple to be able to explain. But of course, the question is, how do I write about myself? What do I even write about in the first place? Like, I can write about myself, but I need to write about something else here that makes sense. So what exactly am I going to write about? Well, let's consider that some of the best things to write about are the things that people already ask about what you do, about your business and about what you do, the actual tasks you perform. That's 10 blog posts just straight away of the top 10 things that people ask you about most. Then another one just like it is the 10 things that people really should be asking you about. They don't tend to ask you about it, but you really wish they would because it would make things so much easier down the track. Well, this is a great way of expanding upon that you always have people asking you about this stuff, then make it so that they definitely have the answers that they, number one, are asking, and secondly, may ask down the track, but don't necessarily think about straight away. That's 20 blog posts already. If you write one a week, that's 20 weeks. That's nearly half a year that you've just already covered with blog posts. And then as those questions change over time, they might say certain things, or they might say, those questions might be seasonal. As you get new questions, add them in as new blog posts. Before you know it, you've got 26 weeks worth of blog posts. That's half a year. And you just have to do that all over again in the second half of the year. When you're writing 52 posts in a year, it becomes easy when 20 of those are already answered for. You already have the answer for what they're going to be. So some things to think about before we get stuck into the actual writing of a blog. First thing I'd like you to think about is that you really need to write about what's in it for them rather than all about us. So if you're writing as a travel blogger, that's easy because you're not writing really about yourself or for your own gain. You're writing for the people who are reading it to better understand where they're going and what they're doing and what the features are. If you're writing about a product that you sell, it can be very tempting to go on the lists of features and go, it's got this, it's got this, it's got this, and that's great because of this and because of this and because of this. It's not putting it in the footsteps of the person who's actually going to be the one who's using the product. If you're writing from the person's point of view who actually makes the product and is going to use it, the person's point of view who's going to use the product, not who makes it, then you'll be looking at benefits. The benefits are different to features. A feature might be that it's got 6 handles. That's great. It's got 6 handles. Why would I care about that? Well, the 6 handles mean that you can grab it from multiple angles to make it easier for you to be able to turn the thing into its correct position. That's a benefit. So the benefit is what's in it for them. A feature is what's so good about the product. You need to have both. And I would say probably in most cases, using psychology, you start off with the benefit that then mentions the feature. And we'll show you a little bit about that when I go live and show you actually how to write a blog. Then consider who you're writing this for. This will change the whole tone and the whole approach you're going to use when it comes to writing for different audiences. Let's say, for instance, you might be writing for a teenage boy, or you're writing for a young professional woman of 28 years old, or you're writing for a mature age worker at the age of 60 who's changing their career. Each of these people come from a different level of education. Each of these people come from a different point of view. And each of these people have very different ways that they read and consider writing. You're not going to put something for a 60-year-old full of emojis. You're going to use a lot more words. But if you're writing for teenagers, you're going to contract a lot of things and use a lot more common terms that are very common to that particular generation. So be very aware of who it is you're writing for, the tone you're going to use, and how that's going to come across when it's read by other people, especially if those other people aren't necessarily the same as you. They're not the same generation, they're not the same level of education, or they're not the same diverse background that you're from either. And then be inspired. Now, I spoke about this just before. Be inspired what others have written and then add your own flavor to it. What I mean is, go and read what someone else has written about the same topic. And you can take all the same points, but just make them your own. So for instance, if it's like about a mechanic who's writing about how this particular brand of oil is a great brand of oil, and you agree with that and you want to write about that as well, take their points but put them in your world. So for instance, instead of just saying it's good because of its higher level of viscosity or whatever that is, turn it into, our customers are reported that it's easy to pour, so that when they're pouring it into engines, it's not so runny and doesn't make it hard for them to clean up afterwards. That's great. Rather than writing about this has got an elevated level of viscosity, you said actually this makes it easier to pour, so people don't pour it all over their engines and have smoking engines later. So you're writing about something that may be inspired by what someone else has written, and you may even take the same points, but then you bring it into your world, your experience, or what you've noticed your customers happen to have said. So now the time has come to actually start to write a blog. So I'm going to share another screen over here so you'll be able to see what I'm about to do. I'm just going to find the right button to do that, because I've got a couple of screens that aren't lining up really well for me today. Let's go to Microsoft Word and share that on screen. So I've got Word on screen right now. So I'm going to ask the question is, what is the best tropical city to visit in Australia? That's my question. So I'm going to format this out so it's a bit easier to read. So I'm going to put that as a heading 1. And then I'm going to, what I'm going to do, that's number 1. I've asked the question. Number 2, I'm now going to answer that question. Very few people would argue that this would not be the case. But my call for best tropical city for visitors in Australia is Cairns in North Queensland. So immediately I've answered the question. I've given a payoff. Now what I need to do is back that up. Why do I and so many people choose Cairns as a location for visiting above other tropical cities? I'll mention some other ones in here, like Townsville, Mackay, Darwin, and even Broome. Point 1, so I'm just going to go to dot points. Cairns is very easily accessible from most capital cities and has international air links. Second one, Cairns has an abundance of natural wonders that are diverse and easily accessed. And third, Cairns has a strong sense of hospitality with more hotels, restaurants, and markets than other tropical cities. So now what I'm going to do is I've answered the question and provided my 3 main points. I'm now going to break those 3 main points down into explain them even further. Let's explore these more so that you can see why so many of us keep choosing Cairns for our tropical travel so much. Then we'll start with a subheading. The subheading is, it's easy to get to Cairns. So I'm going to break that into a subheading now with a big international airport and access by all the major domestic airlines, Cairns is a delight to arrive into. The airport is big, clean, modern, and has plenty of room to rest, recharge, or even just pass through. Both Qantas and Virgin Australia. So you see that I'm backing this up. I'm going to pass it up with basically 3 paragraphs in each point. So both Qantas and Virgin have lounges available for use by frequent flyers. And the food court and shopping options are excellent. Especially, I've been to all these airports, so I know exactly what they're like when compared with similar airports in Darwin, Townsville, and Mackay. Spelling is not great today. So that's number 2. The third thing I'm going to go is that driving to Cairns, while very distant and remote from the main cities of southeastern Australia, is via one long highway that runs from Sydney right through Brisbane to Cairns. The Bruce Highway is largely well maintained and runs through almost every major city in Queensland on the way to the far north. So you can stay and sightsee along the way. So let's see, yep, that works. So that's my first one. Now what I'm going to do is copy that format into another one. So we've got now that part. Now I'm going to write my second point, which was about Cairns having an abundance of nature wonders that are natural wonders. Let's change that to diverse and easily accessed. So we can go, Cairns is a natural paradise. With its soaring mountains, green forests, and World Heritage natural wonders, Cairns is often mistaken as being much smaller than it is, because so much of the city is hidden amongst or behind big hills and in deep valleys. So we can take that further and say this natural aspect of Cairns is so easily accessible by driving up the hills to the Atherton Tablelands, through majestic rainforests, and across mighty rivers, but the most unique way to see this wilderness is via the magnificent historical Garanda Railway that goes from the centre of town right up to the rainforest village of Garanda. But once you get up there, you have the option to return by train or by taking the stunning and scenic, I think it's called Skyway. We'll just call it the Skyway if that's what it's called, which is a gondola journey across World Heritage rainforests and boasting some of the most Instagrammable views you'll ever come across. So that's my second one. So gondola, let's see, it's Instagrammable. It's just a word that doesn't exist, but I'm going to make it exist. So we've already come, if you look at my particular version of word, we've got 412 words already. So that's pretty good. We've done pretty well. Now, the next part we're going to go is that third point, which is Cairns has a strong sense of hospitalities. Dine, stay and play. That's going to be the title of my third paragraph. Let's get out there. Okay, now I'm going to write about hospitality. There is a broad range of accommodation options, from the basic cabins and caravan sites in the suburbs leading into Cairns, right through to stunning views of the marina at the Shangri-La. From no stars through to 5 stars, every taste and budget is catered for. As Cairns grew up as a tourist destination in the 80s, with easy access to the reef and rainforest, it quickly became a favorite destination, a favorite place to visit by Japanese tourists and later Chinese tourists, who have all added their own distinct influence on the styles of accommodation and dining in Cairns. No matter what you like to eat, you'll find it. Not just reef seafood, but Australian beef, specialty espresso coffee. Fix up some words because my typing is not that great. I'm not particularly a good touch typist. Specialty espresso coffee and more modern plant-based options as well. In fact, Cairns has more dining options per head of population than some of our largest cities. So now I've written my 3 main points and I've got that down to what is about 561 words. I can now start to close it up with a call to action. So I'll close it up with something which is like, when will you head to Cairns? And then I'll continue on with the peak season is in the southern winter months of June, July, and August. But Cairns is also quite visitable during the wetter, hotter months due to the cooling effect of the rainforests. I just made up visitable, terrible spelling. During the hotter months due to the cooling effect of the rainforest and the trade winds coming from the east across the Pacific. You can find out more about traveling to Cairns by visiting the far north Queensland, come on, typing, Queensland section of our website. So let's review this. I started off with asking a question. I then answered that question directly, added 3 points, and then I've explained each of those 3 points. Now that took me a total of about about 10 minutes to write this, because it's something that I know enough about to write. Now I can take more information later on and do a bit more research and cover off some more stuff later and correct some things like the Skyway if that's not the correct name. And then finally I added a call to action. That call to action is important because it gives somewhere to go next. So we've been able to not just cover the reasons why we're doing what we're doing, but also be able to provide somewhere to go next. To find out more, visit the Far North Queensland section of our website. Now that ended up being 628 words. Would you believe that 628 words in that short blog? That is amazing that we can write that many words about something that we know about. Now I've been to Cairns maybe twice a year. I go there quite often. I know a fair bit about it, but not everything about it. I'm certainly not in Cairns or from Cairns. So you can imagine that something you actually know how to write about, if you follow that formula, ask the question, answer the question, back up the question with 3 points, expand those 3 points into some more information to help people to really know that you know what you're talking about, and then give them somewhere to go with a call to action at the end. That is what makes for a much, much better blog post that's not only easy to write, but very easy to read and super easy for Google to be able to index as well. So that, I guess, is the writing of it. Now we're going to talk about, I just need to look over because my setup here is like a little bit weird that I don't quite have the right the visibility in my screen. So what we're going to do is now go to be able to look at beyond the writing of it, and we now want to look at the syndication of it. And syndication is basically taking a piece of content and putting it in other places rather than just having it in its original place. So originally we put it onto maybe our website, and we're now going to go and put it into other places. We can syndicate articles on places like LinkedIn. LinkedIn has got an excellent article writing tool that allows you to embed articles into your LinkedIn profile. Medium is like an online magazine or newspaper that you can have a free blog on there to share your material. So that's why I share a lot of mine there, and I've got a little bit of a following starting to build. Tumblr is a blogging platform like Blogger. Blogger is quite an old one now. Not a lot of people use it anymore, but it is very good at being able to have an extra place to put your blog posts onto rather than just your website. And then you've got places like Google My Business, or your Google Business Profile, as it's now called, which also gives you the ability to be able to post a certain amount of words. Now, I'm pretty sure this would fit in because I think it's about 700 words or 700. There's a certain amount of characters they work with. So you might have to write a shorter version of it that you can put it onto Google Business and then link to the main blog post in your website. And that's a really easy thing to do. You can put it onto a Google site. So go sites.google.com and have a separate blog site, which is always linking back to your main website. Or places like Reddit, Quora, lots of different forums where you can put your writing on there for people to read if they have an interest in it. They can read that later on as well. And then, of course, You can break up this blog post into 3 main areas. Notice how I've got 3 main points that I explored in that particular article. So in the article, I talked about Cairns being easily accessible, then a natural paradise and a place to dine, stay and play. So number 1 could be the post that explains about point number 1. Then number 2 could be about the access to the natural wonders, and the third could be the dining and staying and playing. Or I've chosen 3 particular tropical photos around Cairns to explain that. So you've got 3 social posts that come out of that 1 post. Or you could post a link to the original blog post, and you've got 4 points that you can then point to as social posts about your particular blog. And then you can then syndicate it to all those different social media platforms. Twitter will allow you to embed links, Facebook, Instagram, not so much with links, but you can say, visit the link in bio to see where it is. And if you have a link tree or something like that, you can point to lots of different pages. That could be a very useful way for you to use your Instagram profile to point to the stuff you want to point to. TikTok, you can make videos that are based upon the stuff you had there. So it could be someone talking about with pictures in the background of what's going on in Cairns. And then there's Pinterest, which is great for pinning beautiful photos and beautiful things of a place you might have been to in Cairns, where you can then put that into a pinned post on a board. And then LinkedIn, you can post in as posts and as articles as well. So they're really good places to go and make those things start to happen. And of course, you can make all of these things in Canva. You can create presentations, you can create posts and lots of different social posts, video posts, all that sort of stuff in Canva. You can even do YouTube videos now. You can record your voice and your face into Canva and then add lots of other slides to go with that as well. It's a really effective tool to be able to do all sorts of wonderful things, to be able to share your material that you've written a lot further than what you have now. So I guess then we start to talk about whether you want to dig more into blogging with a guide, if there's some way that you want to be able to do this. And you can do this with myself and some of the great blogging people and writers that we have in our team as part of the Digital Solutions program. And in that program, you can access for $44 in Australia, 3 hours of one-to-one advisory and through 4 hours of workshops and webinars. In fact, the workshops and webinars are completely unlimited. You can do as many of these as you like. You don't have to register for a program to do it at all. You just have to register for each episode you want to be part of. Then register at businessstation.com.au. You can request me specifically if you like, or any one of the others who are really, really good at things like social media, websites, cybersecurity, specific business systems you might struggle with. We've got people who will specialize in all of those things. So all we need you to do is just go to that website, businessstation.com.au, register yourself for $44, choose an advisor or let us choose one for you, and we'll be able to connect you with someone who can really help you to make your blogs come to life and really come through. I'd like to thank you for joining me on this particular occasion. You can contact me through Dante at clickstarter.com.au, or you can just look up my name at LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. I would love to join with you there. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you've taken some really good value away from this. And most of all, I really hope that you are able to apply this to your business. And I do really want to see you in the next one of these free webinars and videos. Thank you and good afternoon.